3 days before Mother's Day. I was in the kitchen arranging fresh flowers from my garden when my phone chimed with Fiona's name. Instantly, that familiar knot tightened in my stomach. Barbara, Thomas, and I are keeping Mother's Day small this year. Just immediate family. Hope you understand. Immediate family. I read the words 3 times, my hands trembling. After 5 years of marriage to my son, Fiona still didn't see me as part of that circle. For 3 years, I had helped them with their mortgage, $600 every month, stretching my retirement savings, but I never minded. I wanted Thomas to have the stable start I'd dreamed of for him. Minutes later, Thomas called. "Mom, did you get Fiona's message?" "Yes," I said evenly. "I'm just wondering what immediate family means if it doesn't include your mother." There was a pause, muffled whispers. "Fiona's parents are coming. We thought it would be nice to have just the 4 of us this year." The words cut deeper than I expected. "And I'm not considered immediate family, but her parents are?" "Mom, please don't make this hard," he sighed. "You and Fiona have been tense lately." Tense, such a polite way to describe the eye rolls, the forgotten email invites, the comments about my clothes and opinions. Before I could stop myself, I asked, "Will you still need the mortgage check this month?" "Of course," he said quickly. "Why wouldn't we?" I ended the call, staring at the check already written. 3 years of Sunday dinners they rarely attended. 3 years of gifts acknowledged with quick texts. 3 years of watching Fiona slowly push me out. That evening, another text came from Fiona. "Just so you know, we're having a proper Mother's Day celebration with my mom. Hope you're not too upset. Sometimes you can be a bit overwhelming." Overwhelming. Was it overwhelming to love your child? I picked up the check. With sudden clarity, I tore it in half. Then again and again, until the pieces disappeared in the shredder. My hands didn't shake from sadness, but from resolve. If I wasn't family enough to celebrate, I wasn't family enough to fund their mortgage. The next morning, I called the bank and canceled the automatic payment. "Is there a problem?" the representative asked. "No," I replied calmly. "It's simply time for a change." For the first time in years, I felt light, as though a heavy weight had lifted. I knew there would be consequences. Thomas would be furious. Fiona would have new reasons to label me difficult, but I couldn't keep paying for my own exclusion. Mother's Day arrived. I turned off my phone and spent the day planting new flowers, each seed a promise. No more shrinking, no more apologizing, no more financing people who don't value me. By Monday morning, the storm broke. At 7:42 a.m., my phone buzzed, Thomas's name flashing. I let it ring, again and again. Finally, I answered. "Mom, what happened?" His voice was tight with anger. "The bank called. They said the mortgage payment bounced." I sipped my coffee, feeling the sun on my face. This time, the silence was mine to keep. I took a slow sip of coffee before answering the call. "Yes, I canceled it," I said evenly, a sharp breath on the other end. "What? Why would you do that?" There was a muffled exchange, Fiona's voice, no doubt, before Thomas came back, his tone suddenly hard. "Is this because of Mother's Day?" "Are you really being that petty?" The accusation stung, but I held my ground. "This isn't about pettiness, Thomas. It's about respect. For 3 years, I've helped with your mortgage, over $50,000, while Fiona has quietly pushed me out of your life." "That's not fair," he shot back. "Fiona hasn't—" "Thomas," I cut in, surprised by my own firmness. "Your wife told me I wasn't welcome on Mother's Day because I'm overwhelming. She invited her parents instead. If I'm not family enough to share that day with you, then I'm not family enough to pay your mortgage." Silence. Finally, he said low and tight, "This is disappointing, Mom. I never thought you'd use money to manipulate us." "Manipulate?" My heart clenched. "Is that what you think I've been doing all these years? Helping you?" "Fiona thinks—" "I don't care what Fiona thinks," I interrupted. "I care what you think. How do you feel about excluding your own mother?" Another pause. "I think you're overreacting. It was just one day." "It's not just one day," I said, my voice trembling. "It's a pattern, and I'm done funding my own exclusion." Before he could reply, I ended the call. My hands shook as I set the phone down, but I felt no regret. By noon, the messages started. "Fiona, real mature, Barbara. Using money proves why we needed space. Thomas, Mom, please call me back. We need to fix this." I ignored them, focusing on my garden, though peace still eluded me. Around 3 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Thomas and Fiona on the porch, faces stormy. "We need to talk," Thomas said, stepping inside without waiting. Fiona followed, eyes sweeping the room with barely hidden disdain. "Would you like some tea?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "We don't want tea," Fiona snapped. "We want an explanation, and for you to fix this mess." I looked at my son, searching for the boy who once brought me dandelions and promised we'd always take care of each other. All I saw was a man who couldn't meet my eyes. "I've explained," I said. "I won't keep supporting people who don't respect me." "This isn't about respect," Fiona's voice rose. "This is about control. You've always wanted to control Thomas, and you can't stand that he has me now." "That's not true," I replied, steady. "I've never tried to control either of you. I only ask for basic courtesy and inclusion." "You call barging into our lives and questioning everything basic courtesy?" she shot back. "When have I ever criticized you, Fiona?" "You don't have to say it. It's in your looks, your questions, the way you pick at your food." I turned to Thomas. "You know that isn't true." He shifted, uncomfortable. "Mom, you can be critical sometimes. Maybe not with words, but..." The chill in his voice told me everything. Fiona had reframed my every gesture until even my own son doubted me. "I think you should both leave," I said quietly. "Not until you reinstate the mortgage payment," Fiona demanded. I met her gaze and finally saw the full picture, the subtle maneuvers, the wedge driven between us. "No," I said, the word carrying years of silent endurance. "The answer is no." "You'll regret this," she hissed, grabbing her bag. "Come on, Thomas." He lingered, torn. "Mom, please. We can work this out." "Yes," I agreed softly. "But not with threats and accusations." His shoulders slumped. "Fine. Have it your way." They left, the door slamming behind them. I didn't cry. Instead, a quiet certainty settled over me. The worst had already happened. My son had chosen his wife over me, and I was still standing. What I didn't realize then was that the real battle had only just begun. That evening my phone buzzed, a Facebook tag from my sister. With a sinking heart, I opened it to find a long post written by Fiona. In it, she painted me as a mother who had abandoned her son, accused me of using money to control him, even hinted that I was jealous of their relationship. The family drama had gone public. By the end of the week, I had 37 missed calls, 62 text messages, and countless notifications. Her posts spread through our extended family like wildfire, relatives taking sides before I'd spoken a single word. I silenced my phone. The constant judgment was too heavy to bear. Only my sister Janet called to hear my side. "This doesn't sound like you, Barb," she said softly. "What really happened?" I told her everything. She let out a long sigh. "I always thought something about Fiona felt off. Too polished. Too perfect. I just don't understand how Thomas can't see it," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Love blinds people," Janet replied, "and manipulators are experts at isolation. It's textbook." Her words echoed in my mind long after we hung up. Textbook manipulation. Was that what I had been living through for years? Saturday morning, I climbed into the attic, pulling down boxes of old memories, photo albums, holiday cards, even printed emails. I spread them across the living room floor, building a timeline of my life with Thomas and Fiona. The shift was subtle but clear. In the early days, Thomas called several times a week. We had Sunday dinners together. He brought Fiona to family gatherings. She was polite, if not warm. Then came their engagement. Calls grew infrequent. Dinners dropped to once a month, then only on holidays. Cancellations became last minute and common. I found a Christmas card from 3 years ago, the first after they married. "Mom, we're so blessed to have your support. Love you always, Thomas and Fiona." That same year, they'd asked for help with the mortgage, saying money was tight. I turned to my records. $600 a month every month. But there were more expenses: help with the car, insurance, repairs, even property taxes, while Fiona posted photos of new furniture, weekend trips, designer clothes. I'd seen those pictures, felt uneasy, but pushed the feeling aside. They were young, I told myself. Let them enjoy life. I only wanted Thomas to have the things I couldn't give him as a single mother. But laid out in order, the pattern was undeniable. My phone rang, an unfamiliar number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Barbara, it's Claire, Fiona's sister." I stiffened. We'd met only a handful of times, and she'd always seemed quiet around Fiona. "Claire," I said carefully, "how did you get my number?" "From Thomas's old contact list. Listen, I don't have much time, but I saw Fiona's post and I can't stay silent." Her voice held a tremor that made me sit up. "What do you mean?" "She's done this before," Claire said in a rush. "With our stepfather. She convinced our mother he was controlling, always critical. Mom eventually asked him to leave. It tore our family apart." I sank onto the couch, heart pounding. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've seen the way she isolates people, twists words, creates false stories, and uses them financially and emotionally until she's done." Memories flooded back, subtle comments, the way Fiona rephrased my words when talking to Thomas, how innocent questions became criticisms. "There's more," Claire whispered. "Check Thomas's email if you can. 3 months ago, he planned a surprise anniversary dinner for you both. I helped with the guest list. Then suddenly it was canceled. Fiona told everyone you refused the invitation." My throat tightened. "I never got an invitation." "I know." "There never was one. Fiona made it up, told Thomas you said you were too busy." Tears blurred my vision as the puzzle pieces clicked into place. Forgotten invites, misread conversations, moments when Thomas looked hurt over things I'd supposedly said. "Why would she do this?" I asked, though the answer already formed in my mind. "Control," Claire said simply. "And your money." "Thomas mentioned you helped with the mortgage?" "Yes," I admitted, "for 3 years." "That explains everything." Fiona always looks for financial leverage. She did the same with our stepfather, asked for money, then claimed he used it to control her. Her words settled like heavy stones in the quiet room. And for the first time, I saw the full shape of the story I'd been living. We spoke for another 20 minutes, Claire filling in the gaps I'd been struggling to connect. When I finally ended the call, I sat among the scattered evidence. Years of quiet manipulation laid bare. I hadn't canceled that check out of anger. Some part of me had sensed the truth all along and had finally reached its limit. A new text lit up my screen. "Mom, we need to talk. Just you and me, please." "Thomas?" Hope and dread tangled in my chest. Was he finally seeing what I saw? Or was this another trap set by Fiona? Either way, I couldn't ignore my son. "Tomorrow, my house. 2 p.m., I typed back. The next afternoon, at exactly 2:03, Thomas's car rolled into the driveway. I watched from the window as he sat for a long moment, forehead resting on the steering wheel, shoulders heavy. When he finally stepped out, his movements were hesitant, so different from the confident young man I'd raised. I opened the door before he could knock. "Come in," I said quietly. His eyes swept the living room and froze. On the coffee table lay the timeline I'd prepared. Photographs, financial records, printed texts, all arranged in order. "What is all this?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "The truth," I replied. "Please sit." He sank into the couch, looking lost in the home where he'd grown up. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His shirt was wrinkled. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. "Mom, I need to understand," he began. "Why did you cancel the mortgage payment?" "We're struggling. The bank is threatening us." "Are you really struggling, Thomas?" I asked gently, handing him a folder of screenshots. Because according to Fiona's own posts, there was a weekend trip to Napa, new living room furniture, 3 new designer handbags. He flipped through the pages, frowning. "Those were special occasions." "The trip was for work. The furniture was on sale." I placed another folder on the table. 3 years of financial records, mortgage payments, car insurance, property taxes, home repairs. All this while you two were supposedly in crisis. He rubbed a hand through his hair. "It's not what you think. We plan to pay you back." "This isn't about repayment," I said, my throat tightening. "It's about respect." "About being treated as family, not a cash machine." His eyes flashed with frustration. "That's not fair. We've always appreciated." "Have you?" I asked softly. "Because appreciation doesn't look like excluding me from Mother's Day while my money is still welcome." He went silent, unable to meet my gaze. "Thomas," I continued, "I received a call from Claire yesterday." His head jerked up. "Fiona's sister? Why would she call you?" "Because she's seen this pattern before, first with their stepfather." I recounted everything Claire had told me. As I spoke, disbelief turned to confusion, then to dawning recognition. When I mentioned the anniversary party that never existed, Thomas went pale. "That can't be right," he whispered. "Fiona told me you declined." "She said you had a spa day planned with Aunt Janet." "I never received a call," I said, "and I haven't been to a spa in years." He stood abruptly, pacing, stopping now and then to examine a photo or a printed text. The canceled plans, the the bank records, the messages where Fiona referred to me as the cash cow. "I don't understand," he said finally, voice breaking. "Why would she do this? People who manipulate others do it for control," I explained quietly. "Sometimes for financial gain." Thomas sank back onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. I've been such a fool. My heart ached. Despite everything, he was still my son. I sat beside him, placing a careful hand on his shoulder. "You're not a fool, Thomas. Manipulators are skilled at what they do. They isolate, twist words, create division. It's not your fault." He looked up, eyes red. "But I believed her over my own mother. How can you ever forgive me?" "There's nothing to forgive," I said, squeezing his shoulder. "You loved her. You trusted her. That's what good people do." We sat in silence for a long time, the weight of revelation filling the room like a storm about to break. Thomas's voice was steady when he finally spoke. "What happens now?" It was the very question I'd asked myself through a sleepless night. Could we repair what had been broken? Could my son see past Fiona's influence? "That depends on you," I said carefully. "I can't tell you what to do about your marriage. That's your decision. But I can tell you I'm setting boundaries. I won't be financing your lifestyle anymore. Not because I don't love you, but because it isn't healthy for either of us." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand." I'd never ask again. Then after a pause, "I need to talk to Fiona. Confront her." A flicker of fear went through me. "Be careful, Thomas. When manipulation is exposed, it can turn volatile. What choice do I have?" His eyes met mine. "I can't live a lie." Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. "It's Fiona," he said, brow furrowing. "She's tracking my location. She wants to know why I'm here." "What will you tell her?" "The truth, that I'm with my mother, that I have seen the evidence, and that things are going to change." The phone kept buzzing, insistent. "She's calling now," he said, stepping outside. Through the window, I watched him stand straighter as he answered, his free hand slicing the air as he spoke. After a few tense minutes, he ended the call and stared at the street. "She's coming over," he said when he came back in. "Says there's a misunderstanding. That she can explain everything." My stomach tightened. "Do you want me here when she arrives?" He took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes. It's time we all face the truth." The squeal of tires announced her arrival. Fiona burst through the door without knocking, hair slightly disheveled, eyes blazing. She froze at the sight of the evidence spread across the living room. Financial records, a timeline of missed calls and hidden messages, screenshots of her own social posts. "What is this?" she demanded, voice sharp. "What have you been telling him?" "The truth," Thomas said, standing tall. "Or at least what I've pieced together." "The truth?" Her laugh was brittle. "You mean her version of events?" "Thomas, you know how your mother twists things." I stayed silent, watching the very tactics Claire had warned me about. Deflection, projection, denial. "I spoke to your sister," Thomas said quietly. For an instant, Fiona's expression flickered. Surprise, then fury. "Claire, that backstabbing." She caught herself, mask of hurt sliding back into place. "Claire has always been jealous of me." "Whatever she said is a lie." "Is this a lie?" Thomas held up a printout of messages between Fiona and a friend. Messages where she called me the cash cow and bragged that she had trained Thomas to choose her over his mother. Color drained from Fiona's face. "Where did you get those?" "Claire sent them." "You and she share an iCloud account. My mother has seen everything." For a moment, she had no words. Then her chin lifted. "So what?" I vented to a friend. "Everyone vents." "Vented?" Thomas's voice sharpened. "You literally wrote, 'We'll keep up the mortgage payments as long as we pretend to care about her. Once the house is paid off, we cut her off completely.'" Fiona's eyes narrowed. "You had no right to read my private messages." "And you had no right," Thomas shot back, "to twist my mother's words, to lie about invitations, to use her money while pushing her out of our lives." Her posture shifted again. Tears welled, shoulders drooping. "I was only trying to protect our marriage," she whispered. "Your mother has always hated me, always tried to come between us." "That's not true," I said evenly. "I welcomed you. I supported you both, financially and emotionally. All I wanted was to be included in your lives." Fiona spun toward me, the softness vanishing. "You think your money gives you control?" that you can dictate how we live. My mother never tried to control us, Thomas interrupted, voice firm. She helped us because we asked. She canceled the mortgage payment because she had to draw a line. If that's not control, what is? Fiona snapped. It's a boundary, I said simply. One I should have said a long time ago, I said quietly. Fiona's face twisted with anger. You've turned him against me, she hissed. You and Claire and your lies. No one turned me, Thomas answered, his voice heavy but steady. You did that yourself. Every manipulation, every lie, every time you tried to erase my mother while still taking her help. Fiona's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving. She turned sharply to Thomas. Are you coming? The question hung in the air, carrying the weight of their entire marriage. Thomas drew a slow breath. No, Fiona, I'm not. The 3 words echoed in the silence. You're choosing her over me. After everything we built, she demanded. I'm choosing the truth, he replied. And the truth is our marriage was built on lies. Your lies. Fiona flinched, then hardened. Fine. Stay with your mother. But this isn't over. She pointed a manicured finger at me. And you'll regret this. With that, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. The roar of her car faded into the distance, leaving a heavy quiet. Thomas collapsed onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. I can't believe I didn't see it, he murmured. All this time, it was right in front of me. I sat beside him, resting a hand on his back. Don't blame yourself. She's very skilled at what she does. His red-rimmed eyes met mine. What happens now? That's up to you, I said gently. But whatever you decide, know this. I'm here for you. Always. You're my son, I added simply. That hasn't changed. The weeks that followed were a blur of lawyers, long talks, and painful choices. Thomas moved into my spare bedroom while deciding his next steps. Fiona refused to leave their house, alternating between tearful pleas for reconciliation and vicious attacks on his character. 2 days after the confrontation, I received a certified letter from her attorney, threatening to sue me for emotional distress and interference with contractual relations. I forwarded it to my lawyer and said nothing. A week later, Thomas filed for separation. The next day, Fiona emptied their joint bank account. Rumors soon followed. She told mutual friends that Thomas had been unfaithful, that I had orchestrated their breakup out of jealousy, that we'd conspired to leave her destitute. Some people believed her. Longtime friends avoided Thomas in the grocery store. The church they'd attended together asked him to stay away until things were resolved. I never knew she could be so cruel, Thomas said, shaken. When manipulators lose control, they rewrite the story to make themselves the victim, I explained. It's how they cope. Through every storm, I watched my son grow steadier, more certain of his decision. He began to recognize the tactics that had once blinded him. A year later, 1 year after that night, I stood in my garden pruning roses, morning sun warming my shoulders. The past 12 months had been painful, yes, but also freeing. A car pulled into the driveway. Thomas stepped out, a small gift bag in hand and a genuine smile lighting his face, something I hadn't seen in years. Happy Mother's Day, he said, pulling me into a hug. You remembered? I asked, a lump forming in my throat. How could I forget? I made reservations at Giovanni's for noon. Hope that works for you. I nodded, too full of emotion to speak. We sat on the porch swing, just as we had when he was a boy sharing popsicles on warm afternoons. I have news, Thomas said, a spark of nervous excitement in his voice. The divorce is final. I squeezed his hand. How do you feel? He thought for a moment. Relieved. Sad that it came to this, but mostly free. The divorce had been messy, as they often are. But as I looked at my son, calm, clear-eyed, finally himself, I knew we had both reclaimed something far more important than a legal victory. Our peace. Fiona fought every step of the way, demanding the house, alimony, even a share of my savings. Her requests grew so extreme that her own attorney eventually urged her to be realistic. The turning point came 3 months after Thomas filed for separation. A mutual friend, Melissa, disturbed by the lies being spread about Thomas and me, brought forward screenshots of conversations revealing Fiona's plan to use us financially while cutting Thomas off from his family. She targeted you on purpose, Melissa explained, because she knew you'd help Thomas no matter what. With that evidence, the divorce shifted in Thomas's favor. The house was sold, the proceeds split fairly, and all demands for ongoing support were dismissed. A year later, "I have more news," Thomas said, pulling me from the memory. "I put an offer on a house. Small, 2 bedrooms, but it's mine. Well, mine and the bank's," he added with a wry grin. "That's wonderful," I said, genuinely happy. "Where is it?" 15 minutes from here. Close enough for visits, but far enough for independence." I nodded, appreciating the thought. Over the past year, we had rebuilt our relationship on healthier ground. I'd drawn clear financial boundaries. He respected them, working extra hours to save for his down payment. "There's something else," he continued, voice turning serious. "I've been seeing a therapist. It's helping me understand how I got caught in Fiona's manipulation and how my relationship with you played into it." I tensed, but he shook his head quickly. "Not the way you think. I always felt like I had to be perfect for you, to make up for Dad leaving. Fiona sensed that and used it." A pang of guilt rose in me. "I never wanted you to feel that pressure." "I know," he said gently, "but I did. And when Fiona told me I was perfect just as I was, that I deserved everything without earning it, it was intoxicating." His honesty both hurt and healed. "I'm sorry if I ever made you feel you weren't enough," I whispered. "You didn't," he assured me. "But I'm learning that our perceptions are shaped by more than words, especially when you're a child of divorce, afraid the last parent might leave too." We sat in quiet understanding as the porch swing creaked softly. "The therapist thinks we're both making good progress," he added. "I agree," I said. "This past year has taught us to talk honestly, instead of guessing or hiding our feelings." Thomas reached into the gift bag he'd brought and handed me a small, silver-wrapped package. Inside was a framed photograph of us at his college graduation, the last picture before Fiona entered our lives. Tears blurred my eyes. "It's perfect." As we drove to the restaurant he'd chosen, I thought about the journey from that painful Mother's Day to this peaceful afternoon. Through mutual friends, I'd heard Fiona had moved out of state and was already engaged to a wealthy businessman twice her age. I felt no satisfaction, only a quiet hope that he would recognize her patterns before suffering the way Thomas had. At the table, Thomas raised his glass. "To new beginnings," he said with a smile, "and to the strongest woman I know." I clinked my glass against his. "To truth, and to knowing our own worth." Over dinner, we shared stories and plans for the future. I realized that what had once felt like an ending, the day I tore up the mortgage check, was really the start of something greater. A reclamation of my voice, my financial independence, and most importantly, my relationship with my son. Thomas learned to recognize manipulation and value genuine connection. I learned that love never requires silent sacrifice or endless giving. On the way home, he asked, "Do you ever regret it? Canceling that check?" I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "No, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but also one of the most necessary." He nodded. "I think it saved us both." As the sun set in a wash of pink and gold, peace settled over us. We were no longer just mother and son, bound by obligation, but 2 adults choosing each other, respecting boundaries, honoring truth, and cherishing the hard-won freedom we had both earned.